The Department of Defense is on the precipice of a workforce reskilling revolution. From the National Defense Authorization Act to the recent cyber reskilling efforts with the DCWF, the Defense Cyber Workforce Framework, the DoD is being asked to upskill their workforce and use a data-driven approach to do so. DoD needs to upskill on current technologies, things like cloud, data, cyber, and emerging technologies as well, like AI and machine learning, as well as it needs to it's being asked to increase its coding program speed and technical knowledge across the board. Pluralsight has answered the call by providing a platform to benchmark skill sets and create customized learning paths for both civilian and military personnel in order to help with the workforce development and planning needed to meet those upskilling initiatives. And we have been working with all DoD branches in various programs like the Army's Quantum Leap, the Marine Corps' IDI, Information Development Institute, Digital U, and others as well to ensure, again, that these technology-driven mission objectives are met. So let's take a look at the Pluralsight platform to see firsthand how is this done. The Pluralsight platform is technology skills focused. And again, those technology skills really are going to help with that, not only current reskilling effort, but it's going to help you plan for the future. So 5 years, 10 years from now, there's going to be new technologies that emerge. How can we quickly pivot? How can we quickly see where are my users' strengths and weaknesses so that I can properly prepare and train and develop and plan for the future? So some things that are table stakes, right? We have over 10,000 technology courses in the Pluralsight platform. We, of course, align those courses to different technology areas, different Department of Defense roles, career programs, the frameworks like that DCWF that I mentioned. So all of these 10,000 courses are can be customized in the way that they are grouped and assigned to those personnel so that there is a direct path for growth based on, right, your individual necessities. So that's the table stakes. We've been working with the Department of Defense for quite a while now, and the technology needs, right, they exist in the platform. Now, where Pluralsight really gets to the secret sauce, I'll say, is that planning for the future as well as the current baseline. So traditionally, when we do training, right, or any sort of upskilling, we would send learners off to a boot camp, or we would send them off to some sort of classroom training. And the only feedback that you get from that, or the only objective measurement you get from that, is really the attendee list. So how do we know that the training was effective? How do we know that these personnel got out of the training what we wanted them to get, right? How did we know that that we got a return in our investment from sending these people out to this training? And so that's the part that really is Pluralsight's secret sauce. We can objectively quantify the learning that these personnel are achieving. And we do that by giving these users and personnel skill assessments. And so that's really where I want to start the focus of today. When a user first comes into the platform, we want them to assess their skills. As they start interacting with the platform and assessing their skills, and we're in my profile now, you'll see that there are many skills that I may need to know for my role, right? So as a cybersecurity engineer, as a data scientist, as the cloud architect. There are multiple skills that encompass each of those work roles. Pluralsight breaks them down into manageable and consumable chunks so that we can provide several types of objective data. From the user side, right, that deep vertical user view, which is where we are today, there are two important things that the user can see. First, I can see what is my proficiency on any given technology area. And you see that my proficiency can vary across the board. More importantly, though, I know how do I get better? Where do I go from here? So if we take a look at one of these, ethical hacking as an example, going into this skill assessment or skill IQ, as we call it at Pluralsight, again, the user sees those two things. So first, what is my proficiency level? You can see I'm fairly proficient, right? I just made it. How did the system calculate my proficiency? So the skill assessment is about 10 minutes long that it takes. It's roughly about 20 questions, right? So it's timed, 20 questions in about 10 minutes. And it's backed by AI and our machine learning. So when I first come into the platform, the system's going to assume that I am of average proficiency. As I start to answer questions correctly and incorrectly, the AI is going to dynamically surface up additional questions. So if I'm getting questions correct, the assessment becomes harder for me. If I'm getting questions incorrect, right, the assessment and those questions become easier, so on and so forth, till about that 10-minute mark where I get my proficiency rating. Now, of course, we don't expect anyone to be perfect, right? Technology is a moving target. There's no end goal in technology training because technology is constantly evolving and quite rapidly. So really this proficiency score isn't measured against any end goal. It's actually relative. So I'm, myself or any user is being compared to all of the other users that have taken the skill assessment in Pluralsight in the past. Now that's very important because it removes any industry bias. So if there are any technology gaps or technology strengths in your department, in the DoD as a whole, right, that's not going to bias this skill IQ in any way because we are holistically comparing this technologist against all other technologists in all other industries. So you really get a good idea of where this technologist, this person sits across the board. Now, again, the second part for this user, right, I know how proficient I am. How do I get better? And so because the AI knows what questions I got correct, what questions I got incorrect, I then receive a personalized skill gaps analysis that you can see on the right. Additionally to that, for my gaps on the left-hand side, I can see what do I do about them. So for my tools, systems, programs gap, you see I have very directed, pinpointed, agile learning, right? Quantity of learning does not equal quality of learning. If we go back to that boot camp example, right? If I sit in a class for 5 days and I'm novice, probably a lot of those days are going to go over my head. If I know a lot of things, right, and I'm sitting in that same class next to that person that's kind of lost, it could be that, you know, for the first few days are redundant for me, that I'm maybe wasting my time in there when I could be doing something else. So that is the reason that we leverage these skill gaps analyses to give you that quality of learning, right? We want to be able to upskill as quickly and as efficiently as possible. So that's what this quick learning focus on your gaps allows us to do. That being said, there are larger learning paths. that are tied to these skill assessments as well. So if there is a need to take a larger learning path, let's say project management, right? You want to go and get your PMP certification. We fully support different industry certifications, Security Plus, A Plus, technology specific certifications, all the CompTIA ones. We have about 500 of these learning paths, including certifications, right out of the box. And of course, as I stated in the beginning, they can be customized, right, to align to your roles, to your priorities, to those frameworks. But again, that's not where I want to focus on, because most of you are probably familiar with training, right? I want to focus on the secret sauce, this baselining, these objective analytics that are going to allow us to do that workforce planning and development, not only for today, but for the future. So this again is the user view. Let's take a step back and look at the view for the administrators and the managers. And to do that, I'm going to go into the analytics. So what we do at Pluralsight is we build the organizational hierarchy into this platform. What that means is if you are from a team lead to maybe a department directorate manager, all the way to the top, we can allow you to see the analytics for those people that directly report to you. So that need to know, right, permission-based credentialing, but still allowing you to see all of the analytics and allowing you to leverage this objective data no matter where you sit as a leader, as a manager across the board. So with that being said, let's go back to the type of data that we can see. Anything that the user touches or interacts with in the system, we can get objective data from that. Specifically, let's focus on the skill IQs. So looking at this, I'm looking at the inventory of my skills across the board. And of course, this is Pluralsight's demo data, but this would be the skills and technologies that are most relevant to you, to your team. Staying with that security, focus just as an example, right? Security principles is an example. As I look at my skills distribution across the board, I see that I have 23 expert users. Now that I have this objective data, I know is this enough, right? Is 23 expert users, are they enough to meet my mission objectives, to staff the projects that I need to staff, to mentor and maybe bring forth the other average and above average users to that expertise as well? Is that enough users to meet my mission objectives? Or do I need to upskill, right? Do I need to get more people upskilled to that expertise level? Remember, from the user side, they get the pinpointed learning to upskill, but from the manager side, you see what is your current proficiency across the board. You can also see how those users are improving, which I'll show you in a moment. But right now, we're seeing that proficiency across the board. And I can see this for all of the technology areas that are important to me, for all of the skill IQs that my users have taken. And we have about, again, 500 different skill IQs in the system, right? So out of those 10,000 courses, we break them up into about 500 different subject areas. Now, digging a little deeper into this information, right? This is, again, as I mentioned, that baseline or even the reassessment for a user, so they can reassess their skill IQ as they take that directed learning. But what we want to see as they reassess, right, is how are they progressing? So we're going to go into a more detailed skills view and stay with that same security example to see the progression. So looking at that same security principles, security fundamentals, right? What is my progression? What is my ROI? Has this training, has this platform given me my return on investment by allowing my users to upskill. And we can see how many users started off as novices, as proficient, as experts, and where have they ended up today. You can also see that users not only upskill, but they can also downskill or decrease in their proficiency as well. And really the reason for that is because these skill IQs and these assessments are relative. So if I don't keep up with the pace of change as a user, right? If we think of these technologies like AI, data, cloud, they evolve very, very rapidly. AWS has a production update every 11 seconds, and that involves everything, security and cloud and data. So all these different adjacencies as well. And if I don't keep up with that pace of change, it's not necessarily that I've forgotten anything. It's that as compared to other technologists, I'm not as informed. But even so, because we know this objective data and because we can take a one level deeper look and see who these people are, I can now be proactive about this happening as a manager, writer, or an administrator. So taking that one step further, I can then see my usernames, their first assessment versus last assessment to see if they're upskilling or maybe regressing. I can see that last assessment date, again, because we want to make sure that information is fresh, right? That we're keeping up with the pace of change and reassessing because these skill IQs will keep up with that pace of change. And that last column, I can see what team or organizational hierarchy this person sits in. So again, if I need to staff different projects to meet mission objectives, I know who these people are. I know what team they sit on. If I need to maybe foster some internal mentorship programs for those people that are decreasing, but I know exactly what team they sit on, who they are. We've used this data a lot to develop those courses and skill IQs into individual development plans so that these users can meet with their managers now with objective data and actually be able to objectively see if the individual development plan is working, if the user is increasing in proficiency, in career progression. Now, speaking of career progression, right, it is very powerful to be able to see a single skill for a user. So, are my users proficient in security fundamentals? Are they proficient in Java, in VMware? But it is much more powerful to see if your users are proficient in their entire jobs. So I mentioned on my profile, right, I had all of these different skill IQs because there's more than one technology area and more than one skill that I have to know for my day-to-day job. And we do that in the platform for the user side as well. We'll actually create that, again, job alignment, right, with the framework, with those daily activities and assign it to the user so they know what to focus on. But from the administrator and manager side, I can now leverage that data to see who are those users, right? Who are my experts in their entire role. So a skill IQ goes from 0 to 300, right? 0 to 100 being novice, 100 to 200 being proficient, 200 to 300 being an expert. A role IQ does the same thing. It goes from 0 to 3, and it's an average of all of the skill IQs together. So that's what we're going to see now. Again, these roles, right, these are the customized groupings of what is relevant to each user for their particular job function. So if we're looking at someone, let's say we need to find an expert ASP.NET web developer for one of our mission objectives. Going to this role, I can see, first of all, right, there's 7 different skills that someone needs to know to be proficient or to be an expert on this role. More importantly than that, it's very easy for me to see who do I have to actually leverage right, to be able to do this job. And I can see that Jeremy Wild is a level 3, right? That's an expert in ASP.NET web development. So he's actually an expert on every single thing. And I can leverage him for what I need to. If I need anyone else, I see Amelia, right? She's only a novice, but she's got maybe some proficiency. Maybe we can upskill her quickly as well. Okay, so this really gives you that very focused ability to plan for the future, not only to see what's important or where your proficiency lies today, but if that proficiency level of users is not enough, how do I get to where I need to be? And then how do I keep progressing my workforce, keep planning, keep developing, right, for 5, 10 years down the road? So we've been working, right, again, with a lot of different DoD groups. Hopefully through this demonstration, you can see the value of the Pluralsight platform for DoD agencies who need to strengthen those existing team skills, develop new skills for new roles, for new technologies, and again, assist that future workforce planning and development. So if you'd like more information on the platform, if you would like to have us connect you to those different DoD branches and groups that we are already working with, so you get an idea of how this is already being used internally, please go to pluralsight.com/industries/government. Please use your government email address when reaching out to us from there so that we know who to connect you to, right? What branch are you in, and who are those current individuals we're working with that will be good to network you with. So thank you, and hopefully I will hear from you soon.